everybody, welcome back to Unimonks. My name is Padmanji Chauhan and I'll be teaching you for the CUET history domain. Today we're going to continue with the 6th unit of our syllabus, religious histories using the Bhakti-Sufi tradition. Alright, today we start with the Virashaiva tradition. So in our last class we started the Bhakti movement, right? We talked about the Alvars and the Nayanas. Today we're going to be talking about the Virashaiva tradition that took place in Karnataka. The Alvars and the Nayanas were in Tamil Nadu, right? The Virashaiva tradition was in Karnataka. Okay? Now, this movement started in the 12th century and it was started by a man called Basavana. Alright? His devotees called themselves Virashaivas or Lingayats. Certain traditions that they followed were, number one, they worshipped Shiva. Alright? You can understand them from the word Lingayats, right? Or Virashaiva, right? So, they worshipped Shiva, they wore lingas, alright? And they believed that at their death, they would unite with Shiva, okay? After they die, their afterlife would be with the Lord Shiva, okay? And therefore, they did not practice funerary rites, right? For example, in the Hindu tradition, when one dies, they're laid on a funerary pyre, right? They did not practice this because they believed in an afterlife and they wanted to preserve their body in order to be able to look, when they go meet the Lord Shiva, alright? Preserve their body for when they meet Lord Shiva, okay? Now, another commonality that they share with other Bhakti traditions is that, number one, they challenge the concept of pollution, okay? The concept of pollution, untouchability, they challenged that. They did not believe in that and they questioned rebirth. Okay, so they believed in an afterlife, therefore believing that they would unite with the Lord Shiva, but they questioned rebirth. That they questioned the fact that if they would be born again into the same universe. Okay, apart from this, other traditions that set them apart from the prescribed Hindu traditions or the prescribed traditions by the Vedas was that, number one, they encouraged post-puberty marriage. Okay, so once the child has become an adolescent, once they've fully grown up into a human being, that is when they get married. All right, they did not believe in child marriage, therefore. And they also believed in widow remarriage. Okay, so you can say that they did not practice sati. Alright, they believed that the widow could continue having a life after her husband dies. Okay, and therefore could move on to marry another man. Okay, now, their tradition is understood by historians and by us through these things called vachanas. Okay, vachans, or you can call them vachans. Okay, vachans means sayings, literally means sayings, okay? These were composed in the Kannada language by the men and the women who were a part of this Virashaiva movement. Alright? Okay. Now, moving on, let's talk about the religious ferment in North India. What was happening? This we've talked about. South India, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, right? Now let's move northwards. What was happening in North India? The Rajput states have emerged by this time, okay, and Brahmins hold important positions in their courts, okay, in the courts of the Rajput rulers. At the same time, you see other religious leaders coming up. For example, the Naths, the Jogis, and the Siddhas, alright? These three categories, they belong to the merchant class, okay, to the merchant community. This was a reason why they became so popular, okay? Because India, as you know, the subcontinent, the people of the subcontinent had intense trade going on, okay, among and within themselves and with the world outside, okay. Because of this, they were already popular, and as religious leaders, they also became very popular. These people also questioned a very common theme you'll see in the Bhakti movement is that they question the Vedas, okay, the authority of the Vedas, and therefore these people did the same. The Naths, Jogis, and the Siddhas also questioned the authority of the Vedas, and in order to make themselves more popular and more relatable, alright, they expressed their views, their thoughts in ordinary language that was understood by everybody, by the masses, okay? Because of this, because they questioned the authority of the Vedas, therefore they were going against the Brahmins, they did not gain popularity among the ruling elite, okay? Because the ruling elite was still very much controlled by the Brahmins, okay? Now, if you're liking the video so far, I'm going to request you to scan the QR code that you see popped up on your screen right now. Scan this QR code and download the Unimonks app, okay? Through this application, you will be exposed to a lot more study material. Not just study material, but live classes with me, live chats with your mentors, okay? And we don't only give live classes for history, we have other subjects as well. We have chemistry, biology, we have general test classes, we have sociology, okay? All of your subjects are going to be covered. You can have a live chat with your mentors, organize study material, we're going to give you tests, we're going to give you assignments, basically prepare you for everything that could be possibly asked in your CUET 2024, so that you can crack your CUET 2024 with flying colors. Alright? So scan the QR code, join our Unimonks community. Apart from this, also follow us on our Instagram page, on our Facebook page, join our Telegram group, because this is another way where we share resources, where we solve your doubts, anything related to your domain subjects, related to CUET, anything. And finally, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Alright? Okay. Let's move on. Now, let's move on to the Islamic tradition, the rise of the Islamic tradition. Okay? Delhi Sultanate, as you know, you must have read this. School history has taught you all of this. Delhi Sultanate was established in the 13th century. Okay? This marked changes in religion and in culture. Okay? Cultural, apart from Islamic traditions, another part of the Islamic tradition is the Sufi tradition starts coming up with them as well. Okay? Now, the Delhi Sultanate was established, and following that, continuing in the 13th century itself, the Deccan Sultanates were also established. Now, in these sultanates, the religion of the ruler was Islam. Alright? Now, if they were ruling by Islam, they were supposed to have an ulama in their court who would make sure that they followed the Sharia law in their empire, in their sultanate, alright, or in their court. Okay? Now, the thing is, they were Islamic rulers, right? But their praja, their subjects, were not followers of Islam, right? Majority of their subjects were Hindus, right? They followed the Hindu tradition, the Hindu religion. And therefore, if they started imposing Sharia laws, and they were already considered outsiders, we know this, right? So if you start imposing your religion, the ruler starts imposing his religion on his subjects who don't belong to the same religion, obviously he will not become popular, he will not be taken too very seriously, right? People will not like him. Okay, he already has multiple problems with other sultanates, with other little kingdoms. His subjects themselves will start rebelling against him. Therefore, they did not really take up the Sharia law. In the beginning, they did not really take up the Sharia law in their court. Okay, another category of people instead developed. They were called Zimmis. Zimmi comes from the word Zimma, which means protection. Okay? Now, these categories, these Zimmis, were people who belonged to other religions, like the Jews, the Christians, and the Hindus. Okay? They paid a tax called jizya that gave them protection. Okay? They paid a tax called jizya to the king, who provided them protection from the Muslim subjects, from Muslim people. Okay? Protection in case they were getting harmed, if they were getting exploited some way or another. Okay? So basically, Zimmis who paid jizya, okay, in order to get protection. Alright? Okay. Now, apart from this, the rulers also adopted very flexible policies towards these subjects of theirs. Okay? Therefore, you see that Sharia is not being followed to the T in the courts of the Muslim rulers either. Okay? This is just so that they can gain populace among their subjects, okay, because they are new people, they are seen as outsiders, and you don't want to be seen as an outsider when you're trying to establish an empire, right? So in order to integrate into the society, they're being very lenient. Okay? Now, the popular practice of Islam. You know, you studied this. I know you have. If you are in 12th standard right now, you studied this last year. If you're a dropper, you still study this. Okay, in your 11th standard, you have studied this, the 5 pillars of the faith of Islam. You are going to tell me in the comments down below what these 5 pillars are. Okay, so practitioners of Islam accepted the 5 pillars of the faith of Islam. Okay, they accepted the 5 pillars of the faith of Islam. Okay, but there was diversity in the practices. Okay, because the religion as such comes from outside, but people in the subcontinent who belong to other traditions have converted to this religion, right? And they already had long-standing traditions that that they themselves and their families have followed for centuries, right? So therefore, there were diversity in the practice of Islam. So, for example, the Khojas, who are a Shia sect of Islam, they incorporated their own, in order to like spread the word of Islam, they incorporated their own stories, okay, whatever their oral history, the stories that you hear when you're a child, right, in order to spread the word of Islam among the other people, okay. Apart from this, Arab Muslim traders that started living in Malabar, one, they took up the Malayali language, okay, and secondly, they also started practicing Mechilini, that is practiced till date in Kerala, right? So, you see that these practices, that in order to incorporate, to integrate into and assimilate into the society that was present here, they sort of changed certain practices, okay? They adopted the pre-existing practices. Understood? Okay, if you have questions, leave them in the comments. I'll give you the answers, okay? I will try to clear your doubts as best as I can. Alright? Now, architectural, another diversity or another sort of difference we see in Islam, I guess, is the building of the mosques. Okay, the architectural structure was very different. The basic things were same, right? The praying area faces Mecca, the mosque faces Mecca, right? All of that is the same. That these universal similarities are always there, but structurally they were a little different. So initially, some of these, like for example, this is in your textbook as well, one of the mosque that was built in Kerala, okay, the mosque sort of, like the roof of the mosque sort of looked like a shikhara. And if you know, we've talked about this previously as well, shikhara was a part of a temple structure, Hindu temple structure, right? So that is what I mean by structural differences, okay? Okay. Now, last part of today's class, names of the communities. So, today we use the word Musalman or Muslim, okay, when we're talking about people who practice Islam. But at that time, these words were non-existent, okay. Musalman and Muslim were not words that were used. Instead, they were called, the name that was given to them was from the place that they belonged to, okay. So, for example, Turkish rulers were designated as Turuksha, okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Turushka. Sorry, not Turuksha. Turushka. Okay. The Tajikistan people were called Tajika, and the Persian people were called Parashika. Okay. So they weren't. The entire community wasn't referred to by one word. Every community that came from different places had different words to designate them. Okay. The Turks and the Afghan rulers were called Shakas or Yavanas. We've established this. And the general term that was used at the time was Mlecha, meaning outsider. We've done this in the Mahabharata chapter. You know the answer to this, right? So they were called, the general term that was used to designate them was Mlecha. Okay? Alright. That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, any doubts, any queries related to today's chapter, any trivia you want to share, leave it in the comments down below. Alright? And please don't forget to subscribe to the Unimonks channel. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.